So today I want to yet again discuss Cyberpunk 2077. This isn't a topic I expected to readdress so quickly, however. I was quite happy with my recent video about the paradoxical nature of current outrage towards the title, but over the past couple of days there have been further developments that warrant discussion, because despite the fact that some of the inflammatory content has been retracted, I do not believe it to be for any other reason than community backlash, and thus it's important to keep the momentum going so that these types of accusations and claims do not resurface in larger numbers, thus inflicting a greater level of damage. To set the stage, I want to outline a basic human trait here. The human mind has a scientifically proven tendency to categorize people into different social groups. During the early stages of societal evolution, before the widespread adoption of more standardized hierarchies, there was a large presence of the me versus you mentality. Individual competition or rivalries were rampant, but as social development started to pick up speed, the landscape shifted from the individual to the group. At a certain point, though particular instances of me versus you still existed, and always will exist for that matter, the widespread norm became us versus them. In-group, out-group rivalry became the primary source of conflict, and this phase of social evolution is where we still find ourselves to this very day. There is also a very interesting phenomenon that is present when examining two groups in direct conflict. As soon as a group has a well-defined enemy, especially one perceived as superior or threatening, extremely so, the presence of in-group altruistic actions and social support dramatically increases. As a result, some of the most prominent, valuable, and impressive social advances or initiatives throughout history have occurred during times of tribal, national, or global conflict. Now, here's where we refocus towards Cyberpunk 2077. In the world of Cyberpunk, the human race has not socially evolved past the us versus them mentality. In this dystopian technological society, us versus them has even taken on an entirely new meaning. Rather than tribal or national boundaries, us has been redefined to encompass gangs and racial groups, and them is everyone else, but with a strong emphasis on corporations as the predominant and powerful overarching global enemy. I would propose that to truly evolve past the us versus them stage of human psychology, we would need a global enemy so formidable it forced the entirety of our species to align in order for there to be any hope of survival. But at least for the moment, and perhaps forever into the future for that matter, we are here on this little blue world stuck with one another, and thus the inevitable in-group out-group competition and conflict is destined to morph and reform with increasingly unique manifestation. So, to summarize all this, Cyberpunk proposes a world where social boundaries have been redrawn, some along racial lines, some along financial lines, and still others, from the marketing material, yet unknown, but the mere fact that some of those boundaries appear to be proposed on the premise of race has led to a veritable shitstorm of outrage in the current, overly sensitive landscape of 2019. One of the first instances that kicked everything off was an article from Rock Paper Shotgun, which has now earned a rightful place on my list as one of the largest shit stains in gaming media. The article proposed that because of various different factors, such as gang name, racial composition, and plot direction, the game was adopting offensive stereotypes and contained underlying signs of racism. I've addressed this article before, so I won't dive back into the exact same subject or retread ground here, but what happened after is most important. Mike Pondsmith, the creator of the Cyberpunk universe, gave context for some of the controversial material. His explanation is that the Voodoo Boys, one of the gangs in question, originally made their debut as a scathing commentary on cultural appropriation, but have now become a story of reclamation. The animals, he asserts, and asserts is probably the wrong word here, he rather explains what is true, seeing as this is his creation. The animals operate under an obsession with physical prowess, and will juice up their bodies to exemplify animalistic power. And his final parting message was that he is sick and tired of having others be offended for him, a concept that is all too common in modern day society, and one that we will discuss very in depth shortly. There was definitely a sense of finality from these statements, at least that's what I took away from it. That is partially why I composed the Paradox video regarding the current outrage the way that I did, but Rock Paper Shotgun founder John Walker was not content to simply let the creator of a piece of artwork speak for himself. John Walker replied with the following chain of statements. I love the argument that says this can't be racist because the imaginary people we made up made the decisions. Extraordinary work by the overnight Twitter goblins, those who spend most of their waking lives screeching about anti-white racism, suddenly changing their worldviews and believing it impossible that a person of color can make a bad argument regarding racist tropes. This position is a complete and utter intellectual embarrassment, and it should be noted that he has since deleted the statement and apologized for making it. However, I firmly believe that this retraction was in no way, shape, or form spurred by genuine regret. On the contrary, sometimes you are just so wrong and the evidence is so incontrovertible that even if you still believe your asinine positions are true or correct, you have to take a step backwards. That is what I believe caused John Walker to delete his statement. Still, analyzing what it actually is rather than motivations, we can see a clear pattern of offense being taken on behalf of groups or individuals to whom John Walker does not even belong and has no real ability to speak for. Now, to be quite clear here, advocating on behalf of others is not inherently a bad thing. In fact, it's often a very good thing. But assuming offense on behalf of others is more often than not an embarrassingly ignorant thing to do, which leads to hypocrisy and unintended side effects. Here's another example of this exact same phenomenon, and to be honest, it does not have anything to do with Cyberpunk specifically, but it's a good example of assuming offense and the internal contradictions it can cause. At E3 this year, a streamer by the name Zombie Unicorn made a short video saying something along the lines of, "Why are there booth babes? We don't do that. That's objectifying women. Not cool, companies at E3." Her target, as insinuated by the video, were a group of dancers performing on set for an energy drink called Bang. I won't devolve into the swirling hurricane of idiocy that followed as they doubled down, then doubled down again and again while blocking anyone who made counterpoints, because truthfully that is uninteresting to me, but what I will focus on is the response by one of the dancers themselves. Mary Grace O'Connor is a verified badass, so I doubt you'll ever see this, Mary Grace, but if you do, you're a badass, never change, well done. Anyways, Mary Grace responded to Zombie Unicorn with the following statements. "Just watch this to try and hear you out and stay open-minded, but now you're speaking about what exactly my job is, in which you have no clue. You're making assumptions and they're all false. My job is very hard. I'm not hired to be an object or to just shake my ass. I'm a performer and I'm hired to shuffle dance on stage all day, which is extremely hard work as it's repeated intense cardio. We choreograph, and I'm also hired to speak about our product and to educate others on what we are selling. In no way am I not given a speaking role. You are so ignorant I can only feel bad for you and hope that one day you have enough confidence to not bash me or the company I work for. Smiley face. Hell yes." Now, after looking up what shuffle dance is, because I honestly didn't really know, all I have to say is that it's impressive and obviously when dancing for an extended period of time in such an active way, also cardio intensive. I can't dance like that. Very few people can. It's a talent, but most importantly, it is a cultivated career-enabling skill set that is being utilized by this dancer to earn a living. The back and forth between Mary Grace and Zombie Unicorn goes further, but it's not worth reading because Zombie Unicorn just looks like she has some severe articulation and deductive reasoning struggles, while Mary Grace simply defends the genuine position she holds with reasonable arguments. It's pretty straightforward, but the one last point of detail here is that in another thread, Mary Grace voices concern that there has been some misdirected backlash towards dancers as a result of the recent situation, and therein lies the connection. Zombie Unicorn assumed offense for a group of women she did not know and had no actionable information about. She extrapolated from, I don't know where, some corner of the multiverse, that these dancers, clearly performing a choreographed routine, were booth babes, which is a term referring to additional staff at gaming booths, often hired to make a positive impression or give a positive impression of the product, very often through attractive physical appearance, as is done in almost any industry with both men and women. But I digress. Zombie assumed all of this and took it upon herself to be offended for these women, which in turn caused a group of performers to be misrepresented, categorized into a set of expectations that are not accurate, and even increased the amount of backlash against them for unrelated and untrue motivations. Bottom line, habitually assuming offense for other people is not a noble or altruistic thing, it is ignorant and damaging. Now back to Cyberpunk 2077. John Walker assumed offense for various demographics that might be offended by representation within Cyberpunk 2077, but even in the face of context given by the game's conceptual creator, he doubles down with the assertion that even if the artistic vision of a game, with explanation as to why it is portrayed in such a light, might be offensive to certain demographics, that the possible offense which could exist trumps the legitimate creative expression of the game itself, despite the fact the creator legitimately represents one of the groups for which John Walker is attempting to express outrage for. It's a mindfuck, I know. This might be the end of it, and hopefully it's clear why the outrage regarding Cyberpunk 2077 is becoming, scratch that, already is, full-blown lunacy, but it goes even further. John Walker of Rock Paper Shotgun wrote the following for his Steam Charts The Worst Week Ever edition article. And we've saved the stupidest for last, you absolute morons. This game isn't coming out for over a year, it's not even close to being finished, and you paid money for it. Why? What is wrong with you all? There aren't any pre-order advantages, it's not even sodding well discounted, you just paid full price for a game that is still deep in development for what? There's the gargling idiocy of buying games before there are any reviews, and then there's this. This isn't just a few overexcited twits with 50 euros they want to part with for absolutely no reason at all. This is enough people such that the game outgrossed every other game on sale on Steam. That many people just spent money to not own a game for no possible future gain. Burn everything. On a fundamental level, I can almost agree with some of that sentiment. Don't pre-order, wait for reviews. I've advocated for that over the past months with increasing dedication. But the issue is that this level of animosity and this type of pointedly venomous detraction from the game, coming from John Walker and multiple other outlets and journalists for that matter, is completely unique. This level of scrutiny and aggressive lobbying through all of my research is not applied to any other titles by John Walker. This is not a typical instance of long-proven skepticism on his part, this is a vendetta. John Walker has taken a personal interest in detracting from this game's current excitement, and on the one hand, I am usually a fan of helping to craft reasonable expectations or whatever, or trying to deflate the hype, I guess is a good way to put it, but this is not how you do it. Considering all these factors, it is quite clear to me that John Walker did not retract his statement regarding the accused overt racism of Cyberpunk 2077 because he actually understands now that his position is false. He retracted it because he felt forced to do so. But his and other journalists' attack vector will merely change as they seek to detract from Cyberpunk for, as of yet, reasons that are completely unknown to me, outside of classic overly outraged clickbait. But somehow, this feels a bit further than the typical edgy article designed to do a bit of rage baiting. This feels personal. That's it for today though. As always, on principle, I am nervous about pre-ordering games, so be responsible, but far be it from me to assume offense for others and tell you not to order a game because it might offend someone, somewhere, for some reason, at some point maybe. If you want to support the channel, check out the links down below. You can even offend someone with this t-shirt, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.